Hi guys, welcome back to another video. Thank you guys so much for clicking on this video. If it's your first video, welcome. Returning subscribers, returning viewers, appreciate you guys to the ground. If you guys haven't already subscribed, you know what to do. Hit that subscribe button, real helps out the channel. Drop a comment and smash a like. Today guys, you can see I'm sitting in the podcast studio with you guys, about to have another reasoning with you guys. I'm by myself, but that's okay, because today we're going to talk about the culture shocks that I experienced when I moved to Canada. And a lot of you guys watching this video right now are a little bit concerned about what are some of the things that you can expect when you migrate to Canada. So I'm going to share my experience so that you guys can have, a realistic expectation of what it is like. Now, if you guys have been following my channel, you guys would have known that, one, I came from a country called Jamaica that's located in the Caribbean, 45 minutes south of Florida, which means that it's one season for the entire year, summer. It's summer right year round, January to December. And then I picked up my family, and came to this country called Canada, which is geographically located in North America, which is closer to the North Pole, which means it's cold that I've never experienced in my entire life, right? So that was one of the first culture shock that I personally experienced when I moved to Canada. Now, before leaving Jamaica, I've never traveled before. I didn't know what to expect. I used to hear people say it all the time, foreign cold, Canada cold. But I always took it for granted, and I was always of the notion that if they can do it, I can do it too. So that was the mindset that I had at that point in time. So that was kind of a good mindset to have, but it also caused me to kind of underestimate as well the severity of how cold the country really is. Now, Canada is big, second largest country on Earth. So separated into different provinces, different territories. Each province has its own little weather pattern. So you have to decide where you're going if you're looking for a weather pattern that's close to your country weather pattern kind of thing. But predominantly, you have 4 seasons in Canada. You have your winter, you have your summer, you have your spring, and you have your fall, right? So Canada definitely give you the 4 seasons, and for me personally, that was one of the biggest culture shock for me, because coming from a country where it's all sunshine and torrential rainfall and hurricane and stuff like that, to coming to Canada where it's a couple months of this, couple months of that, couple months of that, couple months of that. And each season comes with its own challenges, its own beauty, and its own, uniqueness. That was kind of like an adjustment for me. But it makes good selfies. So if you're somebody who's into photography, or if you're somebody who's into taking photographs, then this is something that you would personally love, right? So one advice I'd give to anybody who's thinking of migrating to Canada who have never traveled before is to be prepared, right? There's no such thing as bad weather or bad clothing. Now, you're going to have different clothes for winter. You're going to have different clothes for summer. You're going to have different clothes for spring. You're going to have different clothes for fall. It's just how it is. Now, the dress code changes as per season, so you have to just roll with the punches. And if you have kids, it's the same thing. So you can't really buy no whole heap of clothes, because by the time the season change, if you have young kids, they will grow out of these clothes and stuff like that. So you have to make sure that you are planning in advance. So you buy winter clothes in the summer, you buy summer clothes in the winter, vice versa, and then that definitely will make your transition a lot easier. One of the other things that I found very shocking was how hard you have to work, and you take that with a grain of salt. Now, I had this idea in my head that once you come off of the plane, everything I got all right. I had it in my mind that once you land in Canada, you get off the plane, everything just automatically I gonna start be all right. But that wasn't the case. When I landed, and you had all those optimism and all those goals, all those dreams, I quickly realized that this is a society that you have to work in order to survive. Now, let me kind of put things into perspective. Now, there's a lot of persons I know in Jamaica who is not employed. And those persons are living, and they're still living comfortable. They're eating every day. They have a roof over their head, and they have support. But in Canada, if you're not working, then that gonna mess up. In literal terms, because in order for you to really survive, you have to be able to financially sustain yourself. Because unlike Jamaica, where you can go pick an apple off for your neighbor fruit tree, or you can go beg some sugar from over the next door, you can't really do that right here, so. Now you have resources like food bank and stuff like that to help with groceries and stuff like that. But in Jamaica, it's almost like a cultural thing. It's almost like a cultural thing that when your back is against the wall, you can rely on your community, you can rely on a neighbor, you can rely on somebody to be there for you. If it's even to pick some ackee off of somebody's tree and go sell it or whatever the case may be. But right here, you can't really do that. So hard work is the order of the day. And it's so entrenched that as soon as the kids reach 14 years old, 15 years old, they're already cultured to be going out there and working for themselves, to be able to can afford their own car and just stuff like that. And teaches them good work habits and good values to really go out there and get things done. Yeah, so hard work is definitely the order of the day. When I just landed, guys, like sick day in Jamaica, as soon as you see the rain start set up, everybody are calling sick. But here, it doesn't matter the condition. It could be minus 50 degrees. People are still going to work. And I found that to be very shocking. Now, when I landed as an international student, I went into class and I was calling my instructors by them last name, like Mr. Anderson or Miss Smith or stuff like that. And then everybody was looking at me weird, like, why is this person calling everybody like that? Because everybody call everybody by their first name. So even as a student, you're calling your instructor by their first name, like Daniel or Charles or Mary or whatever the case may be. And I was like, that was a bit shocking for me because in Jamaica, it's like a sign of respect to call persons by their title and their last name. So I was cultured to do that. So when I landed here and I was going to school and then even the workplace, I was like, miss this or miss that. Everybody was like, don't call me that. That makes me sound older or whatever the case may be. And then I figured out that even if you're talking to your boss, your CEO, the owner of your company, it doesn't matter. It's a first name basis. And it's okay. You're not being disrespectful, but because I was cultured to think that I was being it's a sign of respect to call somebody by their last name and their title and stuff like that. It was a bit shocking when I landed and I found out that it's okay to call people by their first name. If anything, people prefer to be called their first name. Now, even in the workplace in Jamaica, your coworker, you're calling them by their last name. Even if you guys are on the same level, it's really like you're calling them by their last name. But here, it's a first name basis. And personally speaking, I really like that because it kind of make you feel more a part of the group and you don't really have like that. The hierarchy is there, but the last name basis thing was kind of like confusing to me still, but yeah, it's there, but it's not really there. So that's something that I found really shocking as well. Now, what other thing I can say I find shocking was the bus stop. Let's talk about the bus stop. Now, I remember when I just landed and I was taking the bus and Nats was taking the bus. The bus stops here in Grand Prairie, some of them is really just a post, just a pole. Now, I remember one particular day we were trying to find the bus stop and we walked past the bus stop so many times and it's like we keep asking people, where do we find the bus stop? Where do we find the bus stop? And everyone keeps saying, oh, it's right there, it's right there, it's right there. And we kept walking past and could we find the bus stop? We could not find it. We couldn't find it. And then we ended up finding out that it's literally just a post. I stand up beside the post. That was a bit shocking because the idea of a bus stop we had was like this shed with probably a seat that you can go inside and sit. Mind you, you do have some of those, but like depending on where in the city you are, it's gonna be just a post. So if you are landing in Canada and you have to take the bus, please do not fall into the same trap that we fell into, which is not identifying the bus stops. Could be just a single post with just a picture of a bus on it. And then you just have to stand beside it until the bus come there. That was shocking, and I'm like, why is the bus stop not a bus stop? Why is bus stop so like transient, like it's so invisible? You can literally walk past the bus stop without even knowing that it is a bus stop. So that was something that I personally found shocking as well. So if it is that you're moving to Canada, you want to make sure that these simple day-to-day things that you're looking at, that I'm talking about, it doesn't shock you as much as it shocked me. Let's talk about healthcare. Now, leaving Jamaica, coming to Canada, we thought that we would have had premium healthcare. Now, the facilities are there for premium healthcare, but the service for premium healthcare, that's a different thing. Now, if it is that you're in Canada right now, we can all identify that Canada is going through a healthcare crisis. There's not enough healthcare workers. And because there's not enough healthcare workers, it means that the hospitals are overrun with long waiting period, long waiting time, and there's not enough family doctors. Like, for example, if it is that you go to the hospital for a emergency, you probably are going to be in a waiting room for probably hours before you're attended to. And this is something that we experienced personally because we took Malika to the hospital a couple times in the emergency room, and we had to be there a while before we can get that assistance. And there are times when we felt like we were in, no offense, but we felt like would be better off getting healthcare in Jamaica, because in Jamaica, you have the hospitals which have the long waiting time, but you always have one doctor office open where you can just go to a doctor office and, you can get your assistance just the same. But here, you don't really have that access to healthcare outside of like a family doctor, the hospital, and some walk-in clinics. And the thing is with these walk-in clinics they're not very typically 24-hour open. Sometimes they close at 5, sometimes they close at 4, sometimes they close at 6. So what happens if you get sick 8 o'clock at night? Do you have to either go to the hospital? Well, as a matter of fact, you can only go to the hospital because even your family doctor is not open. So the access to healthcare was a big shock. And one of the first advice that a Canadian gave me was don't get sick in Canada. Because if you get sick in Canada, it's going to be a challenge for you to get that pronto healthcare that you are looking for. And that was something that I found very shocking because we came with high expectations that everything is going to be perfect and, streets are paved with gold and honey is falling out of the sky and all you need to do is just set a bucket. But we found out that healthcare is a real challenge, and to be frank, there's no perfect society. That's what we came to realize. So even though there's so many good about Canada, there's still room for improvements, and it's very important to identify that. Now, because we're talking about the fact that healthcare is a challenge means that everything else is bad or it's broken. It's just that we need more healthcare workers in Canada, or the process for persons to transfer their accreditation over should probably be a little bit easier so that healthcare can be more accessible. We want accessible healthcare because it's tough to go to the emergency room and have to wait 5, 6, 7 hours. And we always joke and say that when I go to the emergency room in Canada, one or two things happen. By the time I see the doctor, is either I get better or you're dead. One of the two things, because ultimately speaking, it's not fair for you to have to sit and wait so long, but that was one of the things that I found very shocking transitioning to Canada. Now let's talk about the food. Now, I'm from Jamaica, and if you guys know anything about Jamaica, we are known to have the best food in the world. Drop a comment if you guys agree. Or drop a comment if you don't agree. Whatever case, just drop a comment. But I can definitely say that Jamaica has some of the best food in the world. So when I migrated to Canada, I knew that based on where I was going, Grand Prairie, I might not have had access to Jamaican food per se, but I think I would have been able to get like Jamaican ingredients, and then I could probably at least cook my own food. But then when I came and then I noticed that there was nothing. There's an African store that sometimes sells Jamaican stuff but diluted. Our Walmart has a Jamaican section that is diluted, so that authentic Jamaican food is not here. And then the Canadian food, it's okay, it's not bad, but it's not Jamaican food. So that was a bit shocker for me. Like the access to food and just the culture and stuff like that. And again, I'm talking from my experience and where I am at, because Canada is big and a lot of persons watching this are probably in different parts of Canada and they have access to the very same things that they would have had access to in Jamaica. So I'm talking from my own experience. If you're watching this and you want to invest in Grand Prairie, Come to Grand Prairie, open that Jamaican restaurant or start that Jamaican store and bring those Jamaican products, right? I'll be happy to partner with you guys as well. So just drop a comment and let me know if that's something that you're interested in, and we will make it work. You understand? I got a question to all the Canadians or the Albertans watching this video. Why does Albertans like the bush so much? Man, it's like Albertans get a thrill by just going into the wilderness, going up in the bush and just digging a hole, building a tent, and just living on survival mode. What is it about that makes Albertans go crazy or get excited? Okay, so that was a shocker for me because I'm from Jamaica and I remember watching movies where persons are going into the bush and they're going into the woods and stuff, and I'm like, why are you guys going into the bush? Why would you do that? And I've lived to see like Jamaicans say, hey man, let's go camping. I'm like, nah, nah, I'm not going camping because I'm not gonna forget watching this on TV and cussing out the persons. I'm like, where are you going, right? But I was shocked as to how much of a big industry camping is. Camping is like one of the biggest sector in North America, in Alberta, in Canada. It's like every time Canadians get a break, camping. Every time there's a long weekend, camping. Every time there's a break, oh, let's go camping. They never pass up an opportunity to go into the bush. And you know what? It's almost like if you go camping RV style, like that's when you rent an RV and you drive around and you live out the RV for a little while. It's almost like you are not respected. It's almost like it's not really camping. You have to go into the bush. You have to go into the bush and you have to like do things. You have to do things retro style, survival mode. Okay, I keep making reference back to Jamaica. Because that was my culture before coming to Canada. In Jamaica, the only drug that I knew of, like see on the street and like know of, was weed. Like literally, it was only weed. And yeah, like most persons in Jamaica experience or explore or try to experiment with marijuana at some point in their life. But predominantly, weed is the drug that most persons know. Then I came to Canada, and then I learned about so many other drugs. I learned about opioids. I learned about fentanyl. I know all of these drugs that most Jamaicans don't even know about, and the amount of homelessness and addiction that happens in like the bigger cities especially, but also in the smaller towns in Canada was very shocking. I didn't expect that. No, I didn't expect like to see the level of homelessness and addiction that we have seen in Canada before coming here, and that was a big shocker for us. And for us, I'm talking about myself, and that's like we never really experienced that. Like in Jamaica, you have people who are homeless, but they are really, we call them, they are really mentally ill persons. So persons who are ill in Jamaica, who are homeless in Jamaica, they're often assumed to be mentally ill. It's not necessarily because of addiction or drug abuse. While you might have some of that, but it's really mentally ill. So if you see somebody in Jamaica homeless, they call them a madman or a madwoman kind of thing. But there are facilities for them, yeah. But here in Canada, the majority of persons who are homeless are assumed to be addicts, assumed to be substance abusers, drug abusers, and stuff like that. So, and it's not just a Canadian problem, it's a North American problem, but that was something that I wasn't really privy to before coming to Canada. And that was a big shocker when I landed and I started seeing people with their carts and their strollers and their knapsack and then stuff like that. I'm like, whew, it is an epidemic. Drugs and homelessness, I think it has reached the point that I can say it's an epidemic in Canada, especially in the major cities. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. And if you are coming to Canada as an immigrant, assuming you are because you're watching this video, please don't fall into the trap. And if you have kids coming with you, keep your kids cultured, because it's easy to assume that it will never happen to you, but just keep your kids close and don't fall into the trap. That would be my advice. If you're in Canada as an immigrant and you came here single, drop a comment and let me know. How did you find a partner? Because I always ask Nats, like even from back in Jamaica, and it's probably just not me, but like people, like I always say Nats, so Nats, nobody not look at today or what, nobody not feature you today, like even from Jamaica, and then like even in Canada now, Nats is like, oh no, nobody's looking in my direction, and it's not just Nats, it's like every person who I speak to is like they're like it's like like let's use the men here in Canada, it's like almost like Canadian men, what look man. No offense, but the ladies are saying that they don't feel like they're being pursued. They don't feel like they're being pursued because I know Jamaican men, we can be very aggressive in our pursuit, but yeah, like there's a level to the conservativeness still. Like, can step up, come up from a conservative fund and go into a balanced fund. Let's use some mutual funds term. But the thing is, dating. It was a shocker. Not for us, but for persons in the circle who are single and, just finding a person. Like, understanding the magnitude of dating apps was never a thing until coming to Canada and seeing that, like, there are so many persons who have so many dating apps on their phone because it is one of the only way you can meet somebody here where we are talking about our own experience. And even if you want to make a friend, oftentimes you have to just go on a dating app and just try to make a friend because it's hard to engage people in conversation because there are so many stereotypes and your words can be misconstrued so easily. So a lot of times persons refrain from, making an advance because your advance might be seen as harassment, your advance might seem as just uncomfortable for the other person. So a lot of persons revert to just going on a dating app. But that was a shocker for me because we are from a culture where you see something or someone you like, you're gonna try your luck. And you might not get through, but whatever the case may be, you're gonna try your luck. I don't see Canadian men or Canadian women going out there and featuring somebody, as we'd say in Jamaica. We don't see them going up to somebody and say, hey, you know what? I really like that shirt and I think we should go on a date. Whatever they want to say. I don't see people featuring people and looking people, as they call them in Jamaica. And that was a shocker for me because I cannot imagine being single in Canada because if you're single in Canada, that's going to suffer. And I think that is why a lot of persons go back to their home country to find somebody and then bring them back because it's like it's hard to make that connection 100%. That's a big shock. Big shock. Drop a comment if you guys agree. Now, if you're watching this video and you like to borrow, Canada is the country for you. Now, the credit system in Canada, that was a shocker. Now, in Jamaica, you have credit, but it's not really linked. It's your life doesn't depend on credit as much as it depends on credit in Canada. Like, for example, if you want a car, you can go buy a car cash, one beaters. You don't have phone, you can just go buy a phone cash and buy a phone card kind of thing. You're not really dependent on credit. And even so be the case, is like not having credit in Jamaica is not really a bad thing. Like not having a credit card, not having a car loan, that's not really perceived as a bad thing. But then, things are changing now, right? But in Canada, it's a credit revolving society. Everything you do depends on your credit. Your credit score can determine the type of apartment that you live in, can determine the type of job you get, can determine the kind of car you drive, can determine every single thing about your life. Your credit score, that magic number, is one of the most powerful numbers you can have in Canada. And guess what? If you say, hey, me not like borrow, then not having any credit is just the same as having no bad credit in Canada. So you better go get a credit card. Better go get a credit card and manage it properly and start building that credit. Because in Canada, you need credit to survive. It's a credit It's a credit revolving society. Everything revolves around credit. Your credit score is like one of the biggest numbers. Your credit score is even more important than your date of birth. Your credit score is more important than your SIN number. That credit score number is like a magic number. And that was something that I found very shocking and fascinating when I came to Canada, because we had bad credit habits that we had from back in Jamaica. Because in Jamaica, you borrow something, you don't pay it back, you go on bad debt, come out, go collections, whatever the case may be. It does really affect you like how it affects you in Canada. So in Canada, if you borrow something, you better pay it back, because it stays on your credit score, on your credit report, almost indefinitely. So please, please, please learn about credit, learn about maintaining credit, learn about maintaining good credit habits, and you'll be successful. If it is that you are like migrating to Canada or any North American country, you would have been familiar with the term tax return. Now, a lot of persons before coming to Canada don't understand the concept of tax return. Now, when you work, your employer do pull taxes and they do pay your taxes. Now, what happens is you can end up paying more taxes than you should have paid based on your individual circumstances. Probably you pay for childcare, probably you do a whole host of different things that can reduce the amount of taxes you pay, right? And because that reduce the amount of taxes you pay, you probably end up paying more taxes than you should have paid, and then you get what is called a tax refund. Vice versa, you might have paid some money, and then it determines that you didn't pay enough taxes, and then you owe CRA. That's a concept that was new to us. And the first year that you file your taxes in Canada is usually the year when I get back some money. That was a shocker for us, because, when I get back money and we're not even there 1 year yet. I said, what? What kind of country this sign we up? So tax return is something that was like a shocker for us. Tax season is something that people look forward to. People look forward to tax season because a lot of times they know that they're going to be getting back some money, putting back in, go on vacation. People use tax return for all sorts of different things. But my advice to you guys is, if you don't know how to do it yourself, get help from professionals. Take referrals from your friends and family members who have been here before. Find out who they use to do their taxes and use somebody similar. Don't try to reinvent the wheel, because you might use somebody and then you end up messing up your taxes. So take advice from persons who, in your circle, who have been doing it for a while. But tax return, your first tax return, is going to make you a very happy person. And you'll find out very, very shocking. Also, guys, if you have been following our channel, you guys would have found out that we bought our house last year. And that was one of the things that we found very, very shocking, of how easy it is to own a home in Canada. The time frame from actually starting the process to owning a home can probably be a month, if everything is in line. If everything is in line, you can own your home in less than a month, from looking at your first house to going into your house and possession date. That was something that we were like, what? Because coming from Jamaica, the amount of processes that you have to do probably take you 3 to 6 months. If it is that everything is in line, it might probably even take you longer. But how easy it is, the process is to just go out and get a house. It's a very, very easy process. Now, that was very shocking to us, because we were even expecting to have it was so smooth that we were even expecting for something to happen to cause it to wait, cause it to delay, because it seemed too smooth. The process here, as long as everything is in line, the process to own a home can be as little as a month or even a couple of weeks if everything is in line. And that is something very shocking. Now, let's talk about house prices. Now, house prices are determined on your location, which province you're in, what city you're in, the size of the city, all of those things you have to take into consideration. So where we are at, the house prices are different than somewhere else, vice versa, vice versa, vice versa. So please note that this is our own experience and we can't share experience from anybody else's perspective, but only from our perspective. If you guys have migrated to Canada and you have found some other things to be very shocking, please do not hesitate to just drop it down in the comment section so that other persons can see what your experiences are like and learn from it. Don't just drop it, but how did you navigate those challenges? How did you navigate those shocks? Moving to a new country is a big deal. It's a life-changing decision. And we talk a lot about unlearning and relearning because that's what you're going to have to do. When you make the decision to move to a new country, you're making the decision to start over your life. Your life literally starts over back from zero. You have to look for that first job again. You have to get that first apartment. You have to get that first car. And a lot of times, the transitionary period can be very difficult for a lot of persons. So let us share our experiences so that other persons can learn from it and benefit from it and are able to make better decisions and transition better into a Canadian society. Equally, if you are migrated to Canada, you want to be making sure that you are doing your research as well, knowing that where you go plays a big factor on the outcome of your transition. Take your journey into your hands. It's your responsibility, and everybody's journey is different. Immigration is like a fingerprint. It looks different for everyone. Not the same experiences is going to go straight across the board for everyone. So please make sure that you're doing your own research and you're not just listening the experiences of individuals, but you are going deep. You're looking at every single facets to make sure that your transition can be as smooth as possible. Again, drop it in the comment section and let's have a conversation about it. Thank you guys so much for watching this video all the way through to the end. I really appreciate you guys taking the time to watch my videos. If you haven't already subscribed, please take a second to hit that subscribe button right down below. Smash that like button because when you hit that like button, it really helps out this channel. Really helps out this video and we really appreciate it. If you haven't already watched any other videos on our channel, please take a second to click on this video right here or that video right there and it takes you to some other videos on our channel. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you guys in the next video.